Hello everyone, welcome to the Junior Developer Podcast. Today we have Ankush with us. We're gonna talk about a lot of things in terms of what happens daily in life of a developer. But yeah, before that, Ankush, do you mind introducing yourself? Like who are you, what you do?
Sure. Hey guys. I'm Ankush. I'm a software dev working at Amazon right now, and I also am the mentor, coach, and founder of Real Dev Squad, which is an open source community for all kinds of developers to like come in together and build projects, which are basically creating a platform for developers to like hang out and learn new skills. So do check us out on realdevsquad.com. Yeah,
I'll
in my
link
free
it
time,
down in the description as well.
sounds good. Awesome. Yeah, we are on Twitter, Instagram, everything. Like still working that out.
All right.
Yeah, I've been a problem solver for most of my life, and that means I naturally became an engineer. Um, I became a full stack engineer, and then I started having a heavy expertise on front end. A lot of reasons for that, and we can get into it.
All
Whoever
right.
wants to like talk about it. Yeah, so I tend to be a full stack engineer, focus on problem solving, and yeah, just like to like work for build like really cool applications for our users.
Sure. So I want to start the discussion with one specific question. A lot of developers who are just starting off, right, or even even the folks who actually want to get into development, right? Not a lot of them have clarity like what is the pathway, right? What is the roadmap one should follow? And there are like everyone has an opinion. Like even for us, we got into this via some step, right? And if we like in retrospect, that might not be the best way to get into, but now we can think about it, right? So if you could just walk me through what would be the best way to for someone to start off with their development journey.
Right. So these are like basically my opinions, and like you said, they're opinions. There's no right or wrong answer.
Yep.
But I am a firm believer that you have to try with by doing practice, right?
True. Yeah.
And there has to be a balance of practice and the theory that you read. Um, and ultimately, all roads can lead to Rome. So there is no wrong answer. There is no right answer. Start your path. See how it works out for you. Tune it. Um, get a community, right? Get a community. Get good mentors. See what people in that field are doing. Ask them for advice. Reach out to like 100 people if you have to. You'll get replies from 5 or 10, and that's enough, right? So try to like talk to people. Like don't just like go into blogs and go into videos and just like go into that video tutorial hell. Like know what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Right. I mean,
So
specifically for folks who are like in engineering college, right? The way we are taught coding, it's like really boring, man. It was like even I was not interested in my first second year. Like it was all theoretical, and then you're doing something like Fibonacci series and all those, right? I want to
yeah.
build real applications, right? That's what I'm interested in. That's where my passion lies, right? So that's pretty good, man. But yeah, theoretical part is also really important as well as development part. At the end of the day, that's like amalgamation of both of them, right?
Right.
Yep.
Um, so that's the one of the main reasons why I started Real Dev Squad. So it was for guiding folks, especially in engineering colleges,
Mm-hmm.
to find us, discover us, and then get the path. Because early on in your life, you don't have that direction, especially if you don't have parents or brothers or sisters who are already in the field.
Yep.
It becomes very difficult to navigate it. Um,
And
so
right
in
now
dev,
the yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
go on. Yeah. So in Dev Squad, because I have experience in this field for about 8 years now, I'm able to give them a path. It may not be the best path for them, but if they stick on that path for n number of months, be it 4, 6, they're going to come out with some exposure of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more industry focused than theoretical, because our college does a good job in at least in the syllabus part of teaching us like core jigsaw pieces to put together.
Yep.
What is needed after that is the intention to use it somewhere. Like you said, right? It's boring. So what we need is the purpose.
Right.
And if you don't have one for a while, get on somebody's else mission and see how it works out.
I mean, if the path is planned, right, it will be really easier. Someone just has to hop in and go with the flow, right? But figuring out that part, like even for me, right, I like I'm also into front end, but I started my journey with mobile development, and it was
Mm-hmm.
it was really messed up for me, and I couldn't figure out a particular way to get into it. But then I started with web, and I figured out, okay, this is my interest. And even I was not fortunate enough to find a mentor like you or anyone, right? So there was no proper pathway to that. That's why I said that in retrospect, there could be a n number of possibilities, right, with which I could have, be like right now where I might have been in a higher level or something, right, if I would have that guidance. And folks like you folks are like helping a lot of folks to start off with a development journey. So that's really inspiring, man. That's really inspiring. Great work. Yep.
Yeah, I by the way had the exact same problem, where I love to program, I love to build, like love to solve problems, but I did not have guidance, and
Guidance
I
is
also did
crucial.
not know. Yeah, I did not know who to reach out to. The initial people I reached out to, they weren't like, there was like some sort of people protecting like whatever they're holding on to, so they didn't want to like
Yes.
share. Yeah, like it was weird.
I mean, why would you want to
Because
do that, right? If you have something, just give it to the community, right? That's what exactly right now we are doing as well.
no, so that the reason for that is I come from a tier 3 college.
Mm-hmm.
So the opportunities and exposure there is very limited.
Oh yeah,
So there are
that's
people who get to know about an opportunity somewhere. They are worried that if somebody else also gets to know about it, they may not, get it. So the best way is to like not share anything and stay on top of the food chain. So
right,
it's
right.
survival, I guess.
I think this happens in a lot of, like, especially you talked about community, right? In your
Hmm.
college, if you figure out, like, I know folks who were not from computer science background, but they're killing it, like literally killing it because they got into a community and they coded almost every day or other, right? So that having a good community helps a lot. But yeah, you're doing great work. Sure. So I also want to talk a bit about soft skills, right? I see, if someone says that development, right, folks say that if you're introverted, it might work out for you. But I personally feel soft skills are really important, right, for you to, because I have first-hand seen a lot of developers who tend to perform not that well, because development is not just coding, right? You have to, it's like you have to be a team member, right? Team sport, right? So like if
Yeah,
you can talk a bit about what all soft skills like could be required for someone to be a good developer.
definitely. Like this is one of the things that I focus on teaching other people more than teaching them coding, because we work in teams, right? Good
Mhm.
software is written in teams. And even if you're introverted, how you communicate and how you collaborate is
That
very
matters a lot.
important. It matters in the team success. So at the end of the day, the product that the user, the end user, then that might be a developer tool you're building, or that might be like a user facing website that you're building, or a mobile app, like you said. It doesn't matter. It has to be built by a group of people, fast and correct. Right? So soft skills are like super, super, super important, because if you don't have them, you are going to hit a glass ceiling and you are not going to be able to rise above that.
Exactly,
So you
exactly.
so there's a reason why people get promoted. Like the promotion is not a function of time. It's a function of your caliber and your output.
Yep,
So
that's the
once you
best way to
max
put
out
it.
on your level 1, and you don't collaborate and you don't share and you don't mentor and you don't like solve problems which other people can't solve, you're not going to get promoted. In at least in like good, like whatever I'm saying is coming from the background of like good quality companies. I typically do not focus on bad companies with bad practices at all. Like everything has to be like how the ecosystem of an A-list company works.
Yep,
So that is my entire focus in getting people into A-list companies.
that's great. That's great. Also, like soft skills are true crucial, but what else could someone do to grow as a developer?
Yeah, so this is a great topic, and again, like super important. Most of us are never taught this, right?
Yep.
And very few figure this out. When you go into a company, especially for a lot of like devs who are starting out, their mindset is, I'm supposed to solve the problem I'm given, because these other experts, they know what they're doing. And most of us know like there's fire everywhere inside the company, right? And everybody's trying to put it out, and not everybody can focus on every single fire.
True, true, true.
So if you are the person who identifies a problem, something you can solve with your skills or your focus or your ownership, and has a high ROI, right?
Return on
You become a
investment.
superhero in that company.
Exactly, exactly. That particular thing, right? It's really important, but the way you figure it out, right? There's no proper part to it. Again, you have to do it on your own completely. And
Yes.
even this particular thing, I think everyone gets stuck, right? Until they figure out figure out, at least, go ahead and talk to a manager or someone mentor. Even personally, even I was stuck, so I had this discussion with the manager, and he told me the exact same thing which you're telling me right now. Yep.
Yeah. So one trick which I used to do for this is, if you ask people, the answer can be no, right? So you don't ask, you tell them.
Oh,
And of course, like when I say tell, not in a rude, condescending manner, but in like in a collaborative, problem solving manner. So for example, what I used to do in my companies, when I see a problem, and I see that, because people tend not to like change too much, right? People
nice.
are afraid of change. And also, if people have too many things on their plate, they are unwilling to take a new unknown one, which makes complete sense. But if you think that long term, what this problem, when solved, can benefit, like a bunch of people, right? You take it on you, create a POC for it, something which you can knock it out in like 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever, and then show it to people. Because the moment you show people something tangible, their minds, the gears start moving, and they're like, oh, can we move this here? Can we create this API? Oh, it would be amazing if we can also put this new feature and upload something. Like, they start getting involved,
Right.
because what they see is, even if they don't get involved, this problem is getting solved by you, like 80-90% by you. You
The
are owning it.
Once you have the base, then over that a lot of things could be done, right? But
Right.
again, a topic that comes out of this is, I see a lot of developers dedicating a lot of time and basically, and ending up being burnout, right? Which is again an issue altogether. So how do you, like? I think since you said that you have been in the industry for about 8 years, there has been times where you would have burned out as well, right? So how do you deal with those kind of conditions?
So luckily, when and I've been very lucky in this particular regard, whenever I have such problems, especially the first or second time, I solve it once. I create my own framework for not repeating that problem.
Oh, learning from your own mistakes.
Yes. So my burnouts happened early on in like 2013, 2014, when I was working on my startup. And the moment I noticed that because of that I was losing efficiency, the app was suffering. That basically the team suffers when you are not at your best. And I formed a framework. My rules are very simple. Like, absolutely no work. Not absolutely. Everything has to be in a reasonable timeline. But generally, I do not work on weekends for my like for the company, unless there is something super critical that has to go out, which I then balance by taking a day off on a weekday. So it doesn't come for free that I'll work on weekends. If I work on weekends, I'll make sure that I take enough time off somewhere during the week. And I've been lucky to have good managers who've understood this and never created problems for me. So I use it very sparingly. Because for me, everything is about quality output and not quantitative output.
Oh, nice. Good way to put that.
So I have to do my best in the 5 days of work, so that I don't have to work those additional 2 days on the weekend, which might be a little difficult for people starting out, because initially you need to like ramp up. But then in the weekends, you should be learning on skills you should be getting good at outside
Yes,
of work.
exactly.
So that that formula, or that methodology has been working very very well for me. Even for like working, I don't overwork. So I'll typically like 8, maximum 10 hours. I try to like make it 8. Like, start
8 is a
working, finish
decent
what you have
amount.
to
Yeah.
work. And I measure my output in basically actions per minute, like not minute, but like per hour, let's say. So like at the end of the day, I have to be aware of what I did during the day. So that helps me keep on track and not waste a whole lot of time.
So basically retrospect every other day, right? Or probably in the end of the day. So
Right.
even one of the main things here is also you should know when to say no, right? Because as a developer, we tend to,
Yes.
that's a
Yeah.
big thing, man. Like, you designers ping you, then product managers ping you, like, this is a small thing and you do it, this is high priority, etc., etc. You have to learn when to say no. You need to learn how to.
Absolutely.
You need to learn what to prioritize, right? That is on you. That's not on someone else, right? It's your work.
Yeah.
It's your time. Like, even
So
earlier in my even in my career, I used to say yes to everything. Then, like, one day my manager, figured out that, Dhrubesh, why are you taking so much stuff? You're not supposed to, right? You just have 8 hours a day. You're not supposed to do that.
yeah, that's a great point. Like, so before we finish the burnout part, I'm also big on work hard and party harder.
Ah,
Like, Yeah, like if I am with like my team which I work with, most of the people, most of my colleagues are my friends. Like it just, I don't know, like maybe I'm lucky that way it happens, or I, I work with like really good people. So like time stops, we hang out, and I'm very big on vacations. So I love to take my vacation because that recharges me for upcoming times.
Time
So
offs are, yeah.
yeah, short vacations where I do something fun, build my app, roam around Nandi Hill, like something different, right? Something away from the routine, and in a year, 1 or 2 big vacations where I'm like gone for like
Completely chilling, yeah.
completely like random adventures. So that's a great point you touched, by the way, like the ability to say no. So I'll tell you a secret, and maybe to like all the people watching, so nobody tell anybody. Um, in my previous experiences, as you said, like product managers, and you have to also be empathetic to how they operate, right?
True, true,
The
true.
the the product managers, they also have to measure their output. So it's natural that there will be some kind of like last minute changes that they want and some new features that they want which were not planned for because there's
Hmm.
not enough engineering capacity.
And they end up becoming P0 tasks, right? I mean,
Everything,
priorities.
like if you ask every product manager, their task is going to be super important for them,
When
right?
do you want this to be deployed? ASAP.
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
So you have to balance, and like you said, right, that is where your non-tech soft skills come into play.
Mhm.
Because as an engineer, like we're like, oh yeah, it's a challenge, I will solve it, like that. We
Bring
have
it
that
on,
kind of a tendency. Yeah, bring it on, of course I can do it. But then can you do it well, and does it solve a bigger problem? So I'm a little infamous in the places I work because I'm typically a rebel. So I very soon realized that this was becoming a problem with the product managers, right? So I started saying no to every feature that came by.
Okay.
Hear me out. So the reason for that is if you say no to everything, the product features that have to absolutely go, like super critical ones,
Nice. I see
they
where this is
float
going.
up. They get escalated. They get floated up. They convince you that okay, out of these 20, these two are super important, and then you do those two really well, and then take on 2 or 3 other things that had to be done.
I mean, that's
So
good.
sometimes
That's good
you
even for the
help them
users.
prioritize.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
of course, of course. Like it's not like I don't want to do all of them. It's just that we have limited time, and whatever we do has a large impact, right? Especially if you're working in a company that serves a lot of users. So I don't want to like have 20 unfinished or 20 like half baked
Mhm.
stuff done. I want
In
like
progress.
everything to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is one of the reason it's really difficult to have focused work, right? When there's so much context changing happenings, right? So, like, if you can give some more tips on like what all habits do you think of an effective developer should intake?
Yeah. First thing is figuring out the pattern of work at your current company, like whatever team you're working for, because you may have a sprint, let's say for 2 weeks,
Mhm.
but during sprint you forget that there's going to be bug fixes. You might be on call. Like there are things like that that's
Private
going to take
works,
away your
yeah.
time. So you have to account for them, and you have to have this uncomfortable talk when you are still like in the planning phase, so
Mhm.
that later on it doesn't become a problem. Like, oh, you said this will be done, but then why is it not getting done? Because you set the wrong expectation. So you have to make sure you have a strong foot during planning, and you say, oh yeah, I can do these 2 features, and then I want to keep some time for maybe like something like refactoring or any on call bugs that shows up, because I'm going to be busy there. And if I'm not doing something at that time, I will take up this task and maybe like improve the code quality, write some tests, or work on this like side project that helps the other sales team, or something like that.
Or
So you're
something
still
from the next
utilizing your
sprint.
time.
Yes, exactly.
Something from the next, no, but then if you can do something from the next sprint, why not do something from the current
Oh
important
yeah,
sprint,
that's also true. Yeah.
right? So that's one, right, where you are like able to be utilized 100% as a resource. And in fact, I would say instead of resource, focus on being an asset. There's like a difference there.
Mhm.
um, the other thing is you have to get good at how your company works, like the tech stack, the tools, the component, like whatever you have in your company. Like you have to be aware of how you can build things inside your company, but that should not make you rusty where you're out of touch with the outside world. So
Mhm.
like I said, right, in your free time, you should also stay updated with what's happening in the outside world, so that you can bring good ideas from outside, and sometimes you can also contribute without infringing on your IP, good ideas from your company to the outside world.
Especially in tech, right? Learning will never stop, right? Even when you're in 50s or something, you have to keep on learning because every day
Right,
something or the other is happening, right?
right. So you should not become antiquated, because that can happen really, really quickly. And the other thing to be an effective developer is the ability to transfer your knowledge and skills to other developers quickly, right? So at any point of time, your project should not have a single, like I think it's called monkey on the
Dependency.
back,
Oh yeah.
right? Yeah, monkey on the back. So you should not have just one person with that. Um, you should be able to like talk to other developers, so that, let's say, if you are not there for some reason, hopefully not run over by a bus or something like that, but you get the point. Like, you're on a vacation, last minute family emergency, or you yourself are in a little bit of trouble, the work should be able to go on. So the ability to transfer that knowledge which you have, and
Mhm.
what you've built so far, to other developers is, I think, like you said, right, working with a team is very, very critical. And like I said, the knowing what is high ROI, like return on investment. So what can you do which requires less amount of time, but then is able to give a good output which helps a lot of people. So having that kind of problem solving mindset.
Sure. I like the first points, and then, like, for example, if you know that sprinters of 2 weeks, right, which is somewhere around 10 to 12 story points, right? So, do you tend to just accommodate like 80% of the time or 70% of the time? Is there a framework around that, or how do you go about that?
That depends on the company, right? Where you are. Like in one of my
Okay.
companies, almost half of the sprint went on bug fixing.
Okay.
So I knew
That's
that.
possible, yeah.
I knew that. So I would make sure that there's enough time for
Mhm.
for that as well. And
So
then
I,
again, like when you're
go ahead, yeah.
and when you're taking up the tasks, so you make sure like these two will finish for sure. This one can like bleed over into the next sprint. So you set those expectations early on with all the stakeholders, not just your engineering manager, with
Hmm.
the product, with the design, like whichever
Everyone.
are different teams. Also, do you account for the meeting hours in your planning? Like, you are going to have design reviews, you are going to have meetings where you're like working with the designers, setting up the UI. You're going to like have meeting with the marketing and sales people for their needs, legal. Like, are you
Hmm.
planning for all of these things as well? So yeah,
Sure.
like it depends on the company. Like yeah, like I'm very infamous for saying things like it depends, but it depends. Like there is no, in my opinion, I don't think there's a right answer for it. You do whatever is the best for the company and you in the long term.
You'll have to basically identify that on your own, right? There's no
Right.
straightforward way to, yeah. So,
Yeah, you take a little bit of ambitious planning,
mhm.
and then review and see if what you planned actually worked out and what you needed to tweak. So maybe like after your first sprint, you're like, oh, I did not give any. I forgot that QA needed some time for testing when I gave those deadlines. So I should like give maybe like 4 working days as a
Mhm.
buffer for that. So you have to like get better in your methodology. So you have to like do that review from
See,
time to time.
this is also really important, right? Development is not just coding, right? This is planning
Right.
and all, giving estimates. This is also one of the most difficult part of a developer, right? Sure.
Yeah.
So,
Like just really quickly here, right? Especially when you're talking to non-tech people.
oh yeah,
So when they say when will this be done, what do you mean by done,
done.
right? So you have to ask that question. You have to make sure that everybody understands, and that's why you should use different terms when explaining. So you're saying, okay, I'll finish building this feature in 5 days, and then QA will test it out in 4 days, and then it might go to prod in 2 days, and then it might get dialed up in another one day. Like, you have to be very clear with the expectations. A lot of people, they say, oh, I'll be done with it in 4 days, and then end of the day, fourth day, the product manager comes and says, where is this feature? Is it on prod? Like, you're like, no, I just push the code. I have to get it reviewed. Code reviews, right? That's
Code
also
reviews,
another
yeah.
one.
That
Yeah.
also takes
So you
good
have,
amount of time.
yeah, and that takes undeterministic amount of time, because your reviewer is also going to be busy, right?
Of
So
course.
you have to plan for all those time frames. And if there is no process, then maybe it's time for you to step up, sit with your team, and form a process around it, and say, okay, code review should be done in 48 hours. email should be replied in 24 hours or something like that, because you have to remember everybody is busy. People are not sitting around saying, okay, when will you push your code so that I can quickly review in 5 minutes, I can send it out. Then when they review, you have to make changes, that has to get reviewed again. So there's going to be back and forth. So are you accounting for that time as well? So basically every stakeholder should be aware of the right expectations. And some of the times things will be uncomfortable, because when you say, oh, this will go out in 13 days, people are like, why will it take 13 days? And you should not get into this mindset like, oh no, yeah, I think we can do it sooner. Like it's fine if you what is the word, under commit and over deliver. But if you do the opposite, you are in deep trouble.
It has to be as pragmatic as possible, right?
Yes. And you have to be able to explain why, right? You have to also show them that some things are not in your control. And if by the way, also what I do is, if they are still like they want it done faster, I'm like, sure, why don't you ping that person and get that escalated? So I remove that responsibility from me to that person, because if they are not willing to do it and they come back to me saying, why is it not? I'm like, I thought you were going to get the review done faster and talk to the QA. I'm not sure what happened. Like
this reminds me of one more specific skills, right? To have a conversation with product manager or product designer, someone from non-tech background, right? You have to be able to explain your work to them, like this estimates and all. Why does it take so much time, right? So even they get an understanding of, okay, this kind of work will take so much time, right? So that is also really important. I see a lot of folks not able to explain that. Even personally, I have some issues at certain points, but I try to make it as non-tech as possible.
Yes, you have to remember, right? People are not stupid. They just have to be explained in a way they can understand.
Exactly.
And it's crazy, like how many developers don't take the right amount of time to educate people around them. Like the reason the PMs many times don't know about this is because nobody took the time and patience to like walk them through it once. Yeah. They're very understanding if you like work with them, and because ultimately all of you are on the same team. The goal is, as a company, is to service your users, and everybody wants that to be successful. So nobody wants to create unnecessary issues. But that's when you have to step in and know that what you know technically has to be explained in a way they can understand moving forward.
That's
so
correct.
Focus, maybe like that's where again the non-tech skills come into effect.
Yep. Since you also talked about code reviews, right? So do you have a mental framework when you're doing a code review, or any mental model?
Yeah, my first thing which I do when I do code reviews is to see if it's correct, right? If it solves the problem it is intending to solve. That's one. Second is, for me, I basically remove myself from the knowledge of the code base. Like I say, okay, if I'm like a new person who's just joined the team and asked to do this code review, if I'm asked to do this code review,
that or not?
Will I be able to understand it? Because a couple of months later, I will not remember this code anyway.
Couple of months, dude. Couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks. So, and when I'm doing that, is every single line important? Like as I'm doing my code review, in my mind, I'm going, okay, what happens if I remove this line? Will my code still work? And the answer is yes, then that line needs to go, right? The number of lines should be as few as possible.
Yep.
So that's another one. Then if there are any confusing parts, I'm not too bent on like if it's an if statement, are you using a switch case? Like all these things, they can be like fixed with time. My thing is readability.
Yep.
Can I read it once and understand what's happening? Because then if I'm given this code in a few weeks, I'll be able to refactor it and it will still continue working. After that, what else? And whatever code is going in, is it improving the quality of the code base? So I'm very happy when people are sending things that are like making everybody's life better by making the code quality, right? Reducing code smells, creating like more tests. Like I love PRs. Like I'll happily review those kind of PRs. And code reviews is also a good opportunity for me to learn.
Yep. True.
Right? And also to teach. So you have to remember that. So for doing code reviews, it's also good to sometimes know the history of why that code. Because we get very hell-bent on, oh, this is this particular way, this is wrong. But it's that way because 5 years ago something happened, there was a deadline, there was this, there was that. There's a context there. So before passing judgment, ask questions like, hey, is there a reason why we are using this old controller? So that you also get to know a little bit about the history and context or from the person who's working on it. And if there are too many we don't know, somebody has to figure that out, because that
Something's
piece of
wrong with
code
that,
later on, maybe the person has left the company, right, who wrote that code. But the problem is, then this code, when it causes issues in future, nobody will know how to solve it quickly. And when you have live issues, time is very critical, because every second your code is not working, your app is not
Someone is
working, you're losing
affected.
money.
Yep.
Yeah, someone is affected. It's annoying. So at that point, speed matters. I need to be able to call a person who knows about it and say, hey, this happened, sorry to bother you, but how should we proceed, and get some direction. So yeah, remember that people write code, so empathy is important. And learn, and also teach people new things. If they're using something that was done in 5 lines and you know how to do it in 1 line, just write a nit comment, right? Hey, I think this can be done like this. Show them the code, give them a link somewhere like MDN docs or specs or whatever you do, so that they can read more. And you can also make it very clear that they don't have to change it. They can if they choose to. But I have noticed that good people, they typically tend to update, because they like to learn.
Then why not?
Yeah. So that's
Since
generally.
Since you also touched a bit about refactoring, right? So again, how do you decide that, okay, this piece of code I need to refactor right now? That's a tough one, right?
Yeah, it's a very tough one, but I have an answer for it. I don't know what is your show PG rated or R rated. I'm not sure about that.
It's fine, just go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, but basically when it says, I call it WPS. Okay. What the hell per second? So when you're reading that code, the more confused you are getting while reading it, the more it needs to be refactored. Right? So if you are cribbing about code, why is this done this way? Why is this not used? Why is this? Like lot of this, what the hell and why is, if they show the W's, then it's time for it to refactor. And I typically like to give refactoring tasks to new people on the team, because they don't need to have a lot of understanding of the code, but at the same time they're able to clean up the code, which helps the team. And also they can compare and write basically a code that produces the exact same output. That's easier to do when you're just comparing and breaking code into smaller pieces and reusing functions and all that kind of stuff.
Especially even when even in all the organization I've worked, they had multiple projects, right? So if I want to be involved in a particular project, I do 2 things. Either I go ahead and refactor a module, or secondly, I start doing code reviews. Even if I'm not at it, I'll just go ahead and start giving my opinions, because that basically makes me understand what exactly the context is, right? I'm basically familiarizing myself with the code. So that's also really, really important, right? And for someone who has joined recently, this is the best way to onboard them. Refactoring is the best way to onboard them.
And it's not like some random work you are giving them, right? Because ultimately it's improving your code quality.
Yep.
So it's not like it's a beginner onboarding task, which is create this dummy app and then it's forgotten after 2 weeks. It's not like that. It's real work.
Yep.
And I think from time to time teams need to set up maybe once a month or twice a month, like a time frame where maybe it's like a small hackathon where they just get together to refactor code.
That's nice.
They're we'll pick this piece, I'll fix this. But basically, when to refactor? If people are complaining about code, it needs to be refactored. And I would say the person who's complaining should refactor it first. Because you have the most context on why you are cribbing about it.
Exactly. Sure. I also wanted to touch a bit about on imposter syndrome, right? So I remember reading about this long back in my college, and I was like, what the hell this is, right? But after being in the industry for a brief amount of time, right, that's a real thing, right? So I'm not sure if you would have dealt with that or not, but what would you suggest them? You're someone who is going through this.
Right. So I briefly, like I said, right, I faced that problem. I solved it once, and luckily it never shows up again, or hopefully doesn't come, whatever. So for me, when that happened and I started comparing, like, better people out there who, and I don't deserve to be here kind of a thing. So the question I ask is, okay, let's say I am removed from this role, who's going to fill it, right? Who knows as much
Mhm.
about this project, who values the contribution that I was making? um, and generally you converse that I think right now you are the best person for this, with your limited knowledge and your limited skills, because the user for whom you are creating this product, they don't care who's building it. If you are removed, a new person comes in, they'll take a while to like understand, create, and like do something about it. Why delay sending out this product to your user, right? And the second
Nice.
thing I realized is there is no dearth of jobs in the industry. So it's
Mhm.
not like you are taking somebody else's role. There are enough roles out there to be filled. So even if you are not the best, or even if you think you are the best and you don't deserve to be there, right? There's going to be a similar role which somebody else can take and work with you, if that makes any sense.
Nice, nice. You
Yeah,
should
yeah.
definitely you should write a blog on this, dude. This is really helpful.
No, I like to like come on Dhrubesh podcast and like share this, so that way it reaches out to a bigger audience.
Sure, sure, sure. That's a nice way to put it. Nice, man.
Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, like I said, like basically just to like tie it off, uh, yeah, sure. You think there can, like, you don't deserve to be there, but if not you, then you have to like make sure nobody else. And chances are whatever you are contributing is meaningful for your team, and that is why you are on that team.
And that is sufficient, right? That is sufficient.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
what motivation is.
If you weren't good, or if you weren't important enough, you would not be in that team for too long. So you always have to remember that your job is to do the inward out, like from you to outside, very well, as best as you can, and let the people you are working with in the company you are working with, let them decide if you
Mhm.
deserve to be there. Why take that extra work of you deciding if you deserve to be there? Let them decide, right?
The
One less thing to worry about.
sure. The other way to look at it would be, if you think that you don't deserve this and you're comparing yourself with some other person, right? Then try to gain the skills that that person would have, right? It will uplift your skill as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that
Yeah,
worked out for me as well. That's what I took, and that worked out pretty well for me. But yeah, so
yeah. I also evaluate if the problem I'm solving, if it's getting solved reasonably well. Do I really need to like spend enough time to like go from 95% correct to 97% correct? Like, is that a better ROI, or is it better for me to create something new
mhm,
which goes from 0 to 80% for my users? Right? Again, the
sure,
ROI. What am I investing in to improve, and how does that impact who I'm building it for?
nice. And what do you think? What makes a developer successful? This is again a really open-ended question, right?
Um, right. I think we've touched upon different pieces of that during our talk today. Um, I think one, first and foremost, is the problem solving nature, right? And when I say problem solving, it may not just be solving it yourself. It might be figuring out who are the right people to work with, what kind of like team you are going to create, small team to solve that problem, and how to get it done. So basically, if somebody shoots something along your way, maybe it's not supposed to be solved technically, maybe it's a people problem, but do you know how to redirect them to, or do you know how to connect people to solve that issue? So I wouldn't say like as a developer, I would say as an employee, what
Yeah.
makes you effective, right? Yeah. So first is like knowing that you are not just a developer, you're part of a bigger organization. So having that mindset that I should do whatever I can to make this big company succeed.
Success. Yeah.
um, and then, like I said, staying up to date with what's happening in the outside world so that you can bring in good ideas. And one of the good ways to be effective, like right now, things move so fast, and things are, you can like gain knowledge over the internet so quickly. The standard for work, standard for output has increased over the past few years, right?
Mhm.
So learn, like read blogs, follow people on Twitter, on LinkedIn, whatever, like see what is happening, learn from like their engineering, their solutions, like update yourself. because you may not use that exact solution today, but you might be able to use something similar for a new problem that comes along your way. So if you want to be effective, you have to be connected with what's happening and what people are solving in general.
Sure.
And that is the outward in thinking, right, where you are seeing what is happening in the outside world and how you can bring it inside your solutions. Then there is inward out, like I said, where you have your own good ideas and how you communicate and get them into solutions.
I would have to rethink a lot of things in my life after listening to this, but that's in a way good, like in a good way. Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And one more thing I would say, like last, just to tie it off, like if you want to be an effective developer, you have to keep your user in mind, like what are you doing for them, right? So it's not just like if you make them happy, if you create delightful experiences for them, automatically you become good.
Yep.
Because your entire focus is in seeing them do better. And by the way, when I say user, it's not just like a consumer internet user. It might be some kind of an internal team who's creating tools for your other developers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when they use your tools, they're like, wow, thank God, this thing exists because this makes our work 5 times, 6 times faster. So that kind of a user.
It's like even if you're working in a design system, so whoever the consumer is, that has to be benefited, right? The same way.
Right.
So since you have worked both in India and the US, right? So if you can talk about what is the difference in work culture?
Oh boy, I'm going to get a lot of dislikes for this. So first of all, it's like a very broad generalization, right? There's going to be people from both side of the countries who are completely exceptions and different. So let's remove that. I typically find the bar for ownership to be higher in the US.
Okay.
People are more, they own a lot of like things that they are given, like they are more serious about getting it done correctly, and the team is also more trusting of them. They're not micromanaged as much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that level of trust helps people grow because they have to like make sure that they are doing justice to that trust. Most of the Indian companies, we know how they operate. So different cultures, different reasons. One of the reasons is in India we have far more talent available. So
Yes.
and people don't really invest like time to manage them really well. So we are focusing on the talent, but we're not focusing on our middle managers, which is I think very important to do to make sure that your company succeeds. Yeah, but then like so many places like the the ownership is like one big difference I see, but apart from that I've not seen myself too many um too many differences where I can like create a generalization. So this is like the only one that I'd probably want to point
Sure.
out. In second would be maybe like, oh yeah, no, there is more.
Bring it on.
in India, people tend to get complacent really quickly. They're in a company, they have this mindset of like just doing that company's work for too long and not like growing outside
Mm-hmm.
of that work. So that drive and that passion is overused, but that drive of like being better, I think it's yeah most of our like the engineering community back in India, right, the quality bar is very very low. So when you see people around you not as motivated, not as driven,
Mm-hmm.
people tend to like
I mean, it's
go to their average norm.
it's like in India we have developers, but there are really few good developers, right? We have a lot of developers, but very
Right.
few good
Yeah, I didn't want to exactly say that, but
no, it's fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
So
Yeah, the and it's because of our engineering colleges. It's about the way we are brought up, right? So yeah, but hopefully like that will change in the coming years, and it is changing. It is changing rapidly. Like for sure, people are getting more motivated. It's still not there. Once that happens, right? Like
it will take some time, but
again,
definitely will reach there.
hope so.
So
Yeah. So people here, they are very like careful of where they are, and they try to like make sure that they, because unlike India, right, like a lot of things, like lot of companies, the job here is at will, so you can get fired anytime, and that has like real consequences in your living style. People want to maintain that high quality of living, so they do want to make sure that they don't get into a trouble spot where they're fired and they have no jobs. So people are more aware of being good, and the
All right.
expectations are also higher. uh yeah, that's the other one.
Sure. And so I'm sure you also take a lot of interviews, right? So what all qualities do you look for in a developer while hiring?
First and foremost, what I try to gauge them, like, is this a person who I would like to work with on a team?
That's really important again. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, interviews are highly flawed. Let's start there. You cannot judge a person in 45 minutes,
Yes.
right? So,
Maybe the stars are not aligned, and maybe the stars are aligned, so you tend to
yeah,
hire wrong person. That happens.
yeah, not just the wrong person. They might actually be a good person, but because they are in a bad mood, or because they're exhausted, or because they're not slept, or they're nervous, right? So many factors. Maybe they're not doing their best at the interview, because how a person is at an interview is very different from how they are in as a real person.
Yep.
Right? So trying to gauge that is very difficult. I tend to see if they have the right building blocks. So I don't ask trick questions. I typically ask questions which are like feature building. So, okay, this is the problem. How do we get around solve? And it's more like pair programming discussion rather than just like, okay, invert this tree and tell me. Like, no. I do ask those kinds of questions, but it's more like, okay, let's say we have, these movies that we want to show, and how would you go about it? So ultimately, they can use it, but
So
even if they're not
application
able to
based.
use application based, so even if they don't have the best solution, they should come up with good solutions. Good is subjective, but they should not give up. Like I see that, are they tenacious? Are they owners of the problem that was given to them? And the second thing I notice is their ability to learn. So I don't expect everybody to know everything, right? But let's say that and I do this from time to time when I really want to push the boundaries and see how good this person is. So we work on something, maybe they don't know the answer to it. I explain, we talk about it. After 3 or 4 more bigger questions, I ask a similar question again to see if they can,
Okay.
absorb that information, and say, oh, this is just what we did in the first
If they
part.
are able to connect the dots or not.
Yes. So I typically look for people who learn and who are listening as well, not just describing, but also listening, who are learning from the interview experience itself. Yeah, these two are the major ones I look for, because I believe with the right kind of mentorship and right kind of coaching, if the people have building blocks, you can teach them anything.
True.
Right. And their attitude also I try to evaluate, but I don't give it too much.
Difficult, yeah.
It's difficult, yeah, because everybody comes saying your company is the best and you people are the best. It's very hard to yeah. I like people who are more honest.
Yes.
So I definitely appreciate honesty lot more. People come in and say, yeah, I'm interviewing in 2 or 3 places. I want to do this kind of job. I respect that a lot more than somebody who says, oh, your company is best, so I want to work there. Right. And yeah, I tend to look more for non-tech skills than just specific tech skills. Tech skills is kind of like the base.
Yeah.
Which one?
Tech skills could be taught, right?
Right. No. But I need some base of the tech skills to exist, right?
Of course,
I don't want to take somebody who doesn't know what data structures and algorithms is and teach them from scratch.
Yep, surely.
So, yeah, the round which is given to me acts as a base, but I evaluate more as a person, right? And I typically do not like people who just focus on the problem that is given and don't talk, don't discuss, because I give problems which have a lot of hidden cases and a lot of contentious issues that can come up. So I want them to talk about, describe those solutions. Also, maybe I should not, let's forget it. Hopefully some of these people will not show up in my interview. I don't just look for solutions, right? Sometimes if I just see that the person is going on the right path, they are thinking of the right test cases, they are thinking of different paths that the code can take. If they're planning their solution, I don't care about their coding after that. I stop that and I'm oh yeah, that sounds good, this works, let's talk about this, how can we expand it? Because if they can think to the problem so well, Even if they don't know how to like code JavaScript, I'll teach them JavaScript. Like it'll be a 2-month investment, but after 2 months they'll be like excellent because the solution they're telling me right now is so good, right? So I look for like how people plan their answers out. There's a reason why the interviewer is there in the room. Because if it was just a DSA problem which you could have solved on your own for in 45 minutes, we would have sent you a HackerRank link and you would have
Exactly.
just done it there. We are there to like talk and get to know you better.
Evaluate much
So
more than that, right? Yeah,
right. So you should use that opportunity. You should like make sure you are involving us in the discussion.
sure.
So yeah, these are some of the parameters that I do in my interviews.
All right. You also worked on both startups and MNCs, right? So what do you
Right.
think, what is the difference, right, in terms of work culture?
So MNCs, so every startup wants to become an MNC, right? And every MNC wants to behave like a startup. So MNCs become like really big ships. Think of them as like cruise lines. So they are providing great experiences, great services, they're established. But that also means that it takes them very long to turn around. Startups, they are like speedboats. They may not carry as many people, they may not be the best experience, but then they move really fast. And you're happy with the speed and the thrill because you get your services, right? So, in terms of work culture, startups typically require people who have breadth of knowledge, right? And as you have that breadth of knowledge, you should also be a kind of person who can handle big arms of projects when they show up. Because in the beginning, let's say there are 5 people, the aim is to make this 50 people. And when this becomes 50 people, you need somebody who can like take care of the new 10 people who are coming in.
Yep.
Because you are there early on, you know the system better, you should be able to guide them. Right? Startups have that kind of like mindset. Big companies, they break a bigger solution down into smaller parts and they make sure the smaller parts, all of them are perfect. Because any mistake that you make on a small scale in a big company, it impacts a large number of users.
True.
So large companies tend to be like more careful of their brand and the
Pretty
breaking impact.
conscious.
So
Yep.
yes, they have to be like they should be. And startups, they can get away with some of, so they they again ROI, so they're like, okay, it can be a problem, but let's move fast so that we can deliver this. But ultimately both of them want to be like the other one. So startup, breadth of knowledge and the ability to grow, and in a big company, depth of knowledge, and then also the ability to like work with more people, because big company means more number of people. So it's funny, right? Companies which have so many developers still have a resource crunch for getting out more features.
There's
Because
always
the
a
bigger
bandwidth
company,
crunch.
yeah, because the bigger the company, the more users you serve, the more different types of use cases you also have to serve, for
True.
which you need more teams. And the more teams you make, more ideas come up, more problems come up, more solutions have to be made. So there is always a shortage. So if you're the kind of person who can like help manage the teams, right? Manage the team in the like sense, as even as a developer, if you're able to like help 3 of your fellow developers or get new developers ramped up, that helps. So culture wise, I think, like I said, breadth of knowledge versus depth of knowledge. And both companies really appreciate when people are willing to like step up and help your teammates.
Sure. The last thing I want to touch upon is, coding bootcamps are pretty growing in India as well, right? So what's your take on, engineering colleges versus coding bootcamps?
Hmm. So, like I said, right, multiple roads can lead to Rome. Um, Early on in India, we don't have a very good idea of what we want to do. So it takes a while to make mistakes. Both of them have their own benefits and their shortcomings. But I think one of the best things that can happen is if we can have a bootcamp model when we are in engineering college.
Oh,
Like, I'll be very honest. If we didn't have engineering colleges, I would have not learned a lot of things which were forced, to study as a subject. I would not even know it exists, and I can't study something that doesn't exist, that I don't know exists.
yep.
Maybe I could have found a mentor who could have guided me along that path, but then my worldview would be more through that mentor's eyes. right? So that's why it's important to have multiple mentors of different fields and backgrounds. Um, Now, coming to engineering colleges, I really hate how they waste your first year not teaching you anything core, right?
We
The
had bio,
stupidest
dude.
reason,
We had bio in our first year. I took PCM, physics, chemistry, maths.
right? Yeah, and we are paying for that education.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
the BS that we hear is, oh, it's good to like be a well-rounded engineer. Okay, so why teach it for only for first year? Teach it for all 4 years. So in my college, we learned C programming. Like a lot of people were learning programming for the very first time
Mhm.
by an English teacher from civil department
Oh boy.
who had no clue what programming was. That yeah, that is the level of incompetency that we had to deal with, and I would say that does impact you long term. Like a lot of people, when they lose interest and motivation early on, it's hard to recover it, and maybe some people don't even recover it.
I mean,
So I've seen like a
that's
lot of my
exactly
smart
what.
friends.
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I've seen my smart friends get wasted in that college because of that. So
That's exactly happened to me as well. Like first year and second year, when I started with coding, right, I was like, "This is coding, dude. What the hell?" But
right,
then when I started exploring on my own, it's a different world altogether, right? And
right,
a lot of folks don't tend to realize that. But I think in that aspect, if you're clear on like you want to be a coder at the end of the day, then maybe coding bootcamp would be, it will take less amount of time, but it will give you a lot of opportunities as well, right? Compared to engineering colleges where it's more generalized, and even, especially for folks who completely depend on, college, right? That they will
hmm,
get us placed and all, right? I've seen
right,
folks who are, who were
right.
topper and all, right? But they are not doing that well right now because they're completely dependent on college, and I feel so sad for them.
Yeah, I had in my colleges, I've seen 10 pointers leave interviews crying.
Yeah,
So I was
dude.
like one of the placement coordinators. Yeah, I was standing outside the room, and there's this person who went in 10 GPA, perfect topper, or whatever. But their mindset of understanding and learning is so bad that
Yes.
they went out crying. Like I've seen them like in tears. I'm like, oh, how do you
Wow.
handle like? And the interview wasn't tough. Like it was basic application, so it was kind of unfortunate. The funniest thing was the C programming, C++ programming. We were taught on this thing called Turbo C.
Yep.
Remember
Still,
the
even
blue
that's
screens?
what it's happening. Yeah.
It's still happening, right? And I remember trying to like find out the application for my laptop to install Turbo C, and it said you can't really like install it. You have to like install this DOS, and then you can install it. I was thinking like, why do I have to jump through so many hoops to write a simple hello world? Like that doesn't make
Exactly.
sense. And then I found out about Linux and GCC. I'm like, why are we not doing this? Why are we taking the OS and then on top of it we are like trying to downgrade it so that we can run Turbo C? So that's the kind of, yeah, that's where I think like our education sucks. Even if they just gave us the first year to learn one or two programming languages extremely well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Java in and out,
Yep.
C in and out. That itself would have been so beneficial than wasting our time on all the other BS subjects, reading physics and civil engineering and mechanical engineering. No, I'm there for computers or
That's why I
electronics or
took
whatever you
computer
are there
science,
for.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, like like I'm paying for it. I'm paying to be there, and you're wasting my time.
I feel Indian education is the biggest scam, man. You're paying so much amount, and
Yeah,
like I feel at least like if you're paying like let's say 10 lakhs, you're paying for 4 years, right? I feel at least you
mm,
should get a job of 6 to 7 lakhs, right? And I see not even that happening right now. I
right,
see folks who are paid like 20 to 25 lakhs for just to get 4 years, and they are doing jobs for 5 lakhs or something. The ROI is so low. After that, they have to struggle and all, right? So that's really sad. But in a way, coding boot camps are kind of solving this problem. But now I also see people, they're done with their 4 years of engineering college, then they go for coding boot camp. So
right.
that's also a path everyone is taking. A lot of people are taking.
Which I think is okay because
Yeah,
now you have
definitely.
appreciation. You have appreciation for why you want to do it.
Exactly, exactly. But I still feel if you're paying so much amount, right, then it should be worth it. It should be worth it, right? And but that's not the
Yeah.
case.
I was so stupid in college, right? I thought placements is the only way you get jobs. Yeah. Like that was my mindset. Like, if I don't get placed in my college, I'm never getting a job. I don't know why I thought that. And I had internet with me. I don't know why I didn't look into it. But like in 4 years, my focus was learning my subject. I love to learn my subjects. I did not care about grades. I not sure what my GPA was. Whatever. Like, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't
Okay.
great either. Right. So I enjoyed that journey of learning. And then fourth year came and everybody was doing placement. So there was like big rat race to like get the best placements. And then I just remembered like, oh my God, I have to get a good placement. Otherwise I'll never have a job. And I got a
Never
good
have a job.
placement.
Never have a job.
Like, that's what you think, right? That college gives you placements. That's how we are trained. And I got a placement. And that is when I started thinking like, okay, pays well, but I don't want to be there. Like, I don't think I will enjoy being there for rest of my life. So then I started looking into masters. Then I started like, I did an internship. That was fun. Like, for the first time, I was actually using what I know. So I
Yeah.
built up like so much knowledge, so much like skill. Like, they were not perfect skills, but they were useful skills, like in
Do,
jigsaw pieces.
do you remember the first time your code actually hit the production? Okay, you don't. You don't. For me, it was
I mean, I
really
won't call it production. It was more like research. Like, other people were using it. But I
okay.
used to build like so small tools within my college for other people to use. So I don't know. Like, gives the same joy, right? Where
Yeah.
somebody is able to use your solution. So like production, when it went, it wasn't like a very different feeling, because I think you get mature to a point where you know that is what you're supposed to
That's
do.
exactly
But yeah,
exactly.
the initial times when I would write like simple stuff to help, let's say my father solve a
Mhm.
small problem, or one of my friends to like create like a flash quiz for the um this thing exams that are coming up, and they
Mhm.
use it, right? They use it like, okay, I used it today. Like, that was fun. I mean, they may not have used it rest of the month or whatever, but
But
you
still, yeah.
created something of value, huh? That was those moments I do cherish.
So
um
even like since so I graduated in 2019. So I was lucky enough. Like I knew that I want to go for off campus because like if like in an engineering college, right? If there are a lot of students, then the only way to filter it out is to have aptitude and all, right? Which is essentially the
mhm,
first round that filters out a lot of folks. So I knew I'm not good at aptitude. I'm definitely decent in DS algo, but aptitude
right.
is something I would not want to invest my time on. Rather, I can invest time on learning tech, right? So that's the reason I went for off campus,
Right.
and I was fortunate enough to get. But I have seen my friends suffer through this whole placement season. It was so depressing for a
Yeah.
lot of people. But yeah,
There
they
was like palpable tension during placement season. Like, I'm like, okay, what is happening? Like, why is things feeling so stressed?
yeah. So for me, I was interning in Bangalore, and my college is in Chennai. So I had to come
Mhm.
once a month to present my project, like whatever I'm doing in my internship. So
Yeah.
like December, college was continuing. Everyone was really chill. January, when I came back, I was like, everyone is so depressed and so tense. They're just one or
Yeah.
two students who are like they got placed, so they are completely chill. The rest of them are
Yeah.
really depressed.
No, I got placed one of the early months, like one of the
Okay.
good jobs that came. I got placed, but then even then, I was like, what is happening? Why is there like such a gloomy, like environment? Like, yeah, fourth year was weird.
I mean, this is really important, right? You like for folks who actually think that college would do everything for them. That's not the reality. You have to explore a lot of things on
Right.
your own and figure out your way. Otherwise, you'll be
Right.
lost. You'll be definitely lost, and that feeling is not good. You should like no one should feel that.
Yeah. Oh, I totally forgot. Like, we are not talking between the two of us. We are actually creating this podcast for other people to see. I totally forgot about that. So, yeah, I have a message for engineering students who are watching this, right? Um, Focus on, so first of all, know that the industry wants junior developers. And it's not like, oh, I know only like so many basic things. So probably people don't want me. That's not true. There's a hierarchy in the company. There are going to be things a senior developer and their time is not really good for putting on that project. A senior developer building very very small things which are repetitive and already solved is not a good use of their time.
Yep.
Junior developers are always wanted and will be always needed.
They bring on a
it's
fresh perspective.
they bring a fresh perspective, and they also are willing to learn and build things which a senior developer's time is not good for, because
Mm-hmm.
they are paid differently and they're growing differently. They're focusing on a bigger fire somewhere else.
Yep.
So initially, it's good for you to get started with small fires. Um, there is a lack of junior developers who are really good from the start. And when I say good, no, I don't mean like they know everything that the company does, but they don't even have the right building blocks. Of course, there are some junior developers who are fantastic and better than senior dev. Like, I'm not talking about those 0.1%.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about those 98% junior devs who come in with almost no knowledge of the industry. And when I say knowledge, in the sense like, what is it that is expected from them? So no matter what year, like I would say as early as first year, if you can, get in touch with people in the industry. Like, just figure out what is happening. And if you still have doubts or questions, come join Dev Squad, Real Dev Squad, realdevsquad.com, right? Um, I'll be very frank, Real Dev Squad is a closed community. So if you're not performing there, you will be booted out. We do not keep people lingering who are not doing anything there. So, and you don't need to know anything when you join. All you need to do is have the right motivation and the drive to learn and get better. And when you do that, the community, the people there are already super fantastic. They will, and they were all people who have started out with zero knowledge.
Yep.
Zero or maybe like 10% knowledge. And my belief is, you put smart people together, they figure out every problem. Like, I generally don't even teach people coding in that group. I give them like problems. Build this site should do this. This is the API I want. And those people, they get together and they figure it out and get it done. So the Real Dev Squad very closely mimics how an industry or a good company operates. So same kind of like hierarchy, and
you're getting the hands-on experience, right?
Yes. But the beauty is, here you can make as many mistakes as you want, which may not be acceptable when you go into a big company. So here you can come in with zero knowledge and we'll still teach you, and you can there be for long term and not worry about anything.
It's
So as
better
early
than
on,
engineering colleges, dude. It sounds better than engineering colleges.
yeah, I'll not like to toot my own horn, but yes, that is true.
That's good.
But yes, like that is the focus, right? You are coming in with the education and the experiences from your theoretical knowledge, and I make sure that in the group you are able to like use them the right way, so that I like we have a members page, members.realdescott.com. That page has to go into a level where any recruiter, when they come to see that page, they know that this person, no matter what level, like zero level, 1 year, 2 years experience, they are like high quality, high potential, high output developer. Like right now in my group, we have people who are in like second and third years. They are going to be like sought after like anything once they graduate. They're already getting like internship offers from like some companies, because they see them doing work, because they're doing actual work. Every PR, every work that you do goes up on their profile page publicly. So you can just see like the kind of work that they do. Like they're like second and third year engineers doing React.js and Next.js and building backend API
That's
with
crazy,
Node,
right?
and God knows. It's amazing, right? And I'm very happy that it happened. I would have expected this to happen maybe in the next 1 or 2 years, but I'm seeing the higher the number of smart people that come up together, the sooner these things happen. Like there was a stage when I had to play catch up to make sure that they keep getting challenging projects, because they just like blaze through all the hurdles I had.
Oh boy.
I had to like set up hurdles. They finished all of them, and I'm like, hey, give me some time. Let me create new ones. Like it's good. Like I'm happy that I face this problem rather than the other where things are stagnant and nobody is doing anything. So yeah, very happy with how things are going. So get on that as soon as possible.
I'm glad
And
you're
do
the one
contribute.
creating good developers, right? You're the one creating good
Yes.
developers.
Yes, that's the idea. Like these people are very, very good for the industry. Like in fact, even the junior devs. So if you are going to be a junior dev in the next 3 years, 4 years, 2 years, whatever, right? Whatever year you are in college right now, and it doesn't matter if you've not started yet. Like better late than never. So become that good junior dev. The podcast is called Junior Developers, right? Or something
Yeah,
something
that's
along
correct.
the lines. Yeah. So become that good junior developer that the industry is happy having you on board. Like when I say junior dev, I'm not looking at salaries of 3, 5 LPA. We want to target like 12, 15 and above. And it does happen. It is possible. But you have to have the right skills. Nobody will like gift you good salaries just because. You have to be good enough that the company knows that A, you will, be valuable for them. And B, if they don't, then somebody else will. Like you need to always have your options. So that is what we focus on
Yeah,
building
you're
this
in
squad.
great hands. Like Ankush is an amazing person. So yeah, definitely do join it.
Thanks.
All right. Awesome,
All
man.
right.
I think that's all we have for today. It was great discussion. Like I personally got
Yeah.
to learn a lot of things, man. So thanks a lot. Thanks for thanks for the time. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
All
And
right.
good luck. Good luck to everybody. Have a good year.